What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. I'm Jack Bushman here with my co-host Ross Baran, and joining us once again is none other than Ryan French, also known as Monday Q Info. Make sure to go and give him a follow on X at A Case of the Golf 1 and check out mondayq.com if you somehow don't already. I feel like our audiences probably have a lot of good correlation, but Ryan, thank you very much for taking the time to join us once again. Great to have you back on. Hope everything's been treating you well as we battle through these tough temperatures here in the month of February, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, I'm as a lot of people are. I am pretty sick of shoveling. It's been a long couple days.
I'm done.
Yeah.
After yesterday.
Yeah, just hoping we can get into the month of March, hopefully get spring here on the horizon sooner rather than later. I think, like you said, Ryan, a lot of people are battling through the weather and the conditions at this point in time. Feels like a good time to talk about the Mexico Open at VidantaWorld this week as the PGA Tour departs the West Coast and heads south of the border. The first national open on the 2025 PGA Tour season. But Ryan, before we get to that and the slew of other topics that we'll get to on today's episode, it's a pretty big day for the folks over here at Golf on Tap as Ross, myself, and Mr. Tony Marchese all cashed a ticket on Ludvig Aberg yesterday at the Genesis Invitational at Torrey Pines. We shed the infamous Marchese curse for the first time, finally get that bug off of our back. And literally the second that Tony mentions that he had money on Ludvig, after he birdies 2 and 3, the guy makes bogey at 4, bogey at 5, and then pars the par 5-6 hole. I'm like, this literally couldn't be any more Marchese curse. Somehow finds a way to claw back and win in pretty epic fashion. Ross, pretty high vibes on the show to kick off this week. How you feeling? Given that Luddy cashed this ticket for us, my friend.
Every Monday that is a winning Monday is just the best thing. I know, especially as a Bears fan most of the time, on top of being a Bills fan, victory Mondays are few and far between. So it's good to have one.
Yeah, we'll take them when we can get them. And to cash Ludvig in, I know it's not his maiden PGA Tour victory, but it's his real breakout one, the one that people have been waiting for. We saw the flashes throughout last season, popping up, finishing runner-up at the Masters in his first major start. The guy played in a Ryder Cup before ever competing in a major championship. We knew about the talent. We've seen many close calls. Ross, I know, well, it's kind of funny that you wind up being on the right side of Ludvig cashing this ticket, considering maybe jestfully you've been throwing out the Ludvig no stones narrative over the last couple of years. Is that something you're going to have to get rid from your vocabulary moving forward, Ross?
I think now we can get rid of it because that was a very long take of mine. The track record added up on it. And then, I felt good about him a couple weeks ago. And when it looked like he was going to run away with it, he shows up day 3, puking his guts out. So,
yeah. And I know there were a lot of people in terms of the golf betting side of things who were on Ludvig at the Farmers Insurance Open, posts 9 under at the North Course, winds up getting really sick. The final 3 days go horribly. He shoots 7 over 79 on Sunday. And I know people probably believed the sick narrative, but I think it was easy to kind of cast Ludvig to the side, considering it was just another end to the tournament that he didn't get across the finish line the way we wanted to see him do it. And to just get aboard, Ross, that 22-1 price tag that, as I mentioned in my bets article, we're not going to be seeing 20s next to Ludvig's name very, very often or at all moving forward. So to cash that is certainly sweet. Definitely want to give a shout out to Maverick McNeely as well, who, does a lot of great work for the PGA Tour and is spoke about so highly in terms of his intellect. But man, over the last year, this guy has finally gotten healthy and has emerged. I believe Maverick McNeely is now a top 20 player in the official world golf ranking. I know there's a lot that goes into that, obviously, but he breaks through for the win at the RSM Classic. Funny enough, both he and Ludvig won at the RSM Classic for their first wins. Battle head-to-head at Torrey Pines, goes absolutely lights out. I thought it made for an incredible final round. Ryan, definitely want to get your thoughts on just a fun Sunday at Torrey Pines, what we saw from Ludvig and Mav down the stretch there before talking about some guys in Mexico this week.
Yeah, I mean, Ludvig's obviously going to be a star. I think most people think that PGA Tour needs young stars for sure. It was good to see him show some emotion. I thought he was good on TGL tonight. He gets rightfully so talked about being a little stoic and boring, and the fist bump yesterday on 18. TGL, he's been good tonight, so it's been good to see. Mav, I'm just a huge fan. Switch caddies last year at like the Rocket to his brother. Not that his previous caddy was very good. It's just sometimes a change on the bag is good, and so for whatever reason that worked, and he's pretty consistently in that. I've muted the conversations, to be quite honest, about I put up a tweet about the fact that he's just really well respected. Off the course, obviously he's had plenty of advantages in his life. Mav says that openly, talks about it. But Mav's really well respected among players. He speaks out his modest mind. He's been pretty open. He came up with the changes in the point system for signature events next year. He's talked openly about having them be 100-player fields. So he just seems to be a really good dude from all accounts. And it's good to see him playing well, because I think he's more on, not my side because it's not mine, but he's more on the player side that I cover than a lot of the top guys are. And so him playing well is good for his voice, because I think it's important.
Yeah, 1,000%. Have the game to be right up there as well with the best players on tour, and also have that presence of someone whose voice and opinions and perspectives are really well reciprocated by his peers on the PGA Tour, and they trust in him to make big decisions. When you play well and are in those tournaments as well, I think it just puts a little bit more legitimacy behind it. And Mav, just an incredible last few months, really immersing himself as one of the brightest futures on the PGA Tour. For him to go head-to-head with Ludvig, I thought was really cool. I'm sure Tiger, being a Stanford guy, probably had a little bit of bias towards Mav there down the stretch. But Ross, we definitely have to talk about this for a quick second as well. The broadcast yesterday, man, I know we gripe about the broadcast on and on and on. I don't really know what happened precisely though yesterday, because they didn't show Ludvig on 10, 11, or 12. And it's not like it was because they were stuffing too many golf shots in there. They were showing Denny take forever to make his putts, and before they were taking shots and whatnot. They didn't show any of Ludvig's shots at 10, 11, or 12. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up real quick is because I thought it's just so fitting for the PGA Tour to do this, when Ludvig in his post-round interview said the putt on 12 that he made for par, a 7-footer that he made for par, was really the key to that comeback in the final round. Goes on to make birdie at 13, 14, 15, and 18 to win 4 of his final 6 to eclipse Mav at 11 under. And we don't get to see that putt, let alone a single shot from those 3 crucial holes on the golf course. 2 of them are the most difficult holes on the course. And the winner, I was almost praying that Ludvig would come back to win, just to kind of stick it to CBS a little bit that, hey, on the hardest holes on this golf course, you didn't even show the guy who won the tournament shots whatsoever.
It was almost poetic. I was laughing at a bunch of friends of the program just out there on X commenting like, are we going to show Ludvig? Oh, Ludvig's 3 back now. Oh, he's 2 back now. And then we get to a shot behind, and it's like, oh, now we're going to flip the camera over because we focused on everything else. And granted, we're giving Mav and Patrick Rogers and everyone their flowers as deserved, but you missed basically the key point of the tournament, the turning point of the tournament in that back 9, where Ludvig makes a charge out of nowhere, comes flying back up the board, and we saw the last 3 holes of it.
Yeah, and it's just the selections that they're making over these guys. And even going back to Friday, I was tweeting this out, they're showing every single shot of Jordan Spieth down the back 9 when the guy is legitimately +7, 4 shots away from the cut. And Steve Sands will not give it a rest that Jordan, he can make an eagle here and still make the cut. I'm like, buddy, what in these first 2 days have made you think that Jordan Spieth is going to make an eagle here and suddenly make the cut? And it's just those types of decisions to show those types of narratives. And we'll get to this here more in a second, just these forced narratives that they try to shove instead of the narratives that are playing out. I don't understand it whatsoever. And those types of storylines are what makes golf so unique and so special. And this ties into what I wanted to bring up next with Ryan, which is seeing all the great stuff, Ryan, from the Waste Management Phoenix Open and what unfortunately was the final Monday Q there. And I know it's a little bit bittersweet with that being the situation, but definitely wanted to talk about how cool it was seeing a guy like Will Chandler finish T6, get an opportunity to play alongside Scottie Scheffler in the final round, go and beat him. I thought it was really cool that Frank Nobilo was giving it time on the broadcast as well and kind of singing your flowers a little bit, whether knowingly or not, and just saying like, this is why Monday qualifiers are important. And then to see you on Dan Rappaport's show the next day as well. It was really cool to see. And as Ross and I have continued to preach like the same things that you have and taking away these opportunities, we see why they're happening, but we don't believe it's the right thing for the game moving forward. It was really cool to see that happen. Although again, kind of bittersweet with the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I think it's exactly what Monday qualifiers are. And I've said on that show in years, I think pro golf is overall pretty gross right now. And Monday qualifiers kind of make it relatable, right? Like it's all about money and how much this guy's getting, 100 millions and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, Will Chandler is just trying to make his first cut, right? And then played with the best player in the world and beat him. You know, I think that the majority of pros don't agree with all the changes. I'm sure that there's some change. Some of these changes are not bad. Fields probably needed to be reduced a little bit, just how they've gone about it, how much they've cut it. And Monday's being cut and these signature events is just pretty rough. The Monday qualifiers, obviously I'm talking to people who are players who are generally biased, but I have not run into any player that's like, yeah, it's a great decision. So it's a bummer, man. The fact is that, you know, the policy board, 5 players are making all of these decisions right now. You hope that they would take into account all the membership, but just don't think that's happening. And, you know, you have Peter in there. You hope Peter would be the voice of the grinders. He holds a lot of power because the players need his vote to pass anything. And, you know, some players have been disappointed that he hasn't. So, yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer for the section. The Southwest section is an awesome PGA section. A huge amount of their budget comes from this the pre-qualifier. So I hope one day when different players are on the policy board, they don't forget where they came from and bring Mondays back. But Will's a great story, and here's to a Monday qualifier winning at some point this year. Might as well be this week. Hayden Springer could win this week.
I was just about to say, Will Chandler in the field this week in Mexico. A key word there that I think Ross and I use a lot on the show when describing the PGA Tour, and I guess there's a lack of this from the PGA Tour, is relatable. Like, I think when the fans see something that's relatable, that's really when they get engaged. And there's not a whole lot that's relatable in terms of these changes that are being made. Like you said, like for the top guys on PGA Tour, aka a small percentage, that's probably what they want, but these aren't relatable decisions or what these guys, like the majority of the tour, wants to do. And I think the product has just gotten away from being relatable. And in terms of the coverage that we watch and the product that we watch on tour, and the golf course is getting so easy and these guys tearing it up and the purse is getting bigger, like we've gotten away from that relatability that I think makes the game of golf so great. Like you see the Century, for example, to begin the tournament, Hideki Matsuyama shoots -33, -34. Like that's not a relatable winning score. And the broadcast wants to pump up how good these guys are and how incredible they are at the game. That's not relatable for 99% of the audience and 99% of golfers in the world, because we can't simply go out and do that type of stuff. And that's like the type of product that they're trying to run with, the best of the best. And as we'll get into here in just a second, like manufactured storylines. Like this past weekend, I was talking before we jumped on air, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, in the hunt for the first time really together on the weekend. They haven't been like neck and neck on the leaderboard, it feels like, since Scotty's been on this epic run. That's, the narrative that I'm sure the PGA Tour would have wanted to play out on Sunday, but they still got a phenomenal tournament with that not being the narrative, because we get a guy like Maverick McNeely who goes and shoots an epic first 13 holes to get himself on top of the leaderboard. And Ludvig Aberg, it doesn't need to be the cream of the crop all the time to make this product relatable and engaging. And I think there's just been a little bit of that lost on the PGA Tour the last handful of seasons. And I think it's really unfortunate. Ross, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the relatability is probably the thing that drives most of us to watch the tour, at least in the past. I mean, one of the most relatable things of all time is John Daly winning PGA, coming in, driving all night as a last second alternate. People ran with that and loved that. That's why John Daly was so beloved. So I think I understand where they went this week with coverage and things like that, but I think you need to find a way to keep it relatable. Personally, not only just because of the great job that Ryan does, but I love the Monday Qs. I love watching that guy get that grinder fight, tooth and nail to get one of the spots in, get in there, and then you see they made the cut that week. We love that. It doesn't matter if they're not fully in contention. They made the cut. They made it all worth it. The dream's still alive. On to the next week. We try again. You appreciate that over time when you watch this game.
And just another thing I wanted to bring up as well, speaking on Ludvig, because I know, Ryan, you mentioned you thought he was really good on TGL and the fist pump that he showed on 18 and like some of the faces that he was making walking off the course and seeing the trophy and whatnot. That's relatable. Like those types of emotions are relatable, and it's what gets fans to like certain players. And again, something that Ross and I have been preaching on the show, like if you are one of those types of players who can show emotion while still playing golf at a high level, you absolutely have to. And that definitely has to be on display at TGL, because that's exactly what it's supposed to be for. It's for entertainment, and having those types of emotions, whether good or bad, it's only going to make it more entertaining. So I agree, Ryan, seeing Ludvig being more relatable with a fist pump and being engaging on TGL, I thought was really good. And Ryan, I know you had someone who we have on the show quite often, Tweeth Mitchell, write up a little something about TGL a couple of weeks ago as well. Again, for anyone who's tuning in right now, make sure to go and check out mondayq.com and follow Ryan on X at A Case of the Golf One. Ryan, I'm curious your thoughts on TGL through its first handful of matches. I know we're still relatively early on in the process and whatnot, but I'm just curious, what have you thought about it so far?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, thought when it first started, before it started, I was like, no chance. It's not really for me. It's still guys hitting balls into a screen. I think they take it too seriously. I saw one today. There was a clip on Twitter, and they're asking Justin Thomas and Cantlay about, like, what does this mean for your team? Like, dude, balls into a screen. Like, I think they take it too seriously from coverage standpoint. It looks like the players are. That's been a huge step in the right direction, but again, I had this conversation on the Corn Ferry Tour, same as they cover the PGA Tour, and now it seems they're covering TGL kind of the same. It's like, this isn't serious. Just make it more fun. But to give them some credit, it is way, way, way better than I thought. This week has been an improvement. I don't know the sustainability. In 2 years, this is still dudes hitting balls into a big screen, but it's way, way better than I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And today I thought they had two really good matches and a triple header on President's Day when a lot of people aren't working, and a good opportunity to grab a big audience. I thought they did a really good job and had two engaging matches. But I do agree, like, they got to find a way to present itself, and like Marty Smith, like with the real serious questions to the players, like it just doesn't fit the vibe. And like him going to ask different celebrities in the crowd, like how much they enjoy this. We joked about this on an episode a couple of weeks ago. It's like, if you got to tell someone how great something is, it's probably not all that great, but I will give them credit for making it engaging thus far, and kind of hearing what the feedback from golf fans has been in terms of like changing the hammer rules. And I noticed today in terms of the walkout, they didn't have individual players walking out. They went out as a team to kind of cut some of that time down. So they're like making adjustments and they're taking in feedback, and that's what they need to be doing on the fly, especially with something so new. So I give them credit for a lot of that. I think we all have questions about the sustainability and the long-term plan and what it's going to look like in a few years. But I do think they're off to generally a pretty good start. As a golf fan, I'm always going to be watching. I'm interested to see what the numbers are going to look like moving forward in kind of a longer-term perspective. But I know we're 25 minutes through this conversation, and we still got to get to the Mexico Open, which, as we kind of previewed early on in the show, I know it's not necessarily everyone's favorite week on the PGA Tours. There's no top 25 players in the official world golf ranking at Vidanta for the 4th edition of the Mexico Open on the PGA Tour schedule, at least. However, I think that's what makes it so special. It's a different style of event. You get different names, and it's an opportunity for a lot of guys to present themselves onto the PGA Tour type of scene. And like we saw last year, Jake Knapp breaks through for his maiden win after having a 3rd place finish at Torrey Pines a couple of weeks earlier. Sammy Valimaki, I think, was someone not a lot of people had heard of before his runner-up finish. Steven Yeager, I know he had been on tour for a little bit prior to then, but he had a solo 3rd place finish, went on to beat Scotty Scheffler at the Houston Open a little bit later in the year. Robert McIntyre finished T6 here. He went on to win twice last year. Andrew Novak was inside the top 10, and he's a guy who's gotten himself into signature events. So again, like, the PGA Tour can try to manufacture these storylines, but at the end of the day, good golfers, regardless of whether they're household names or not, if you play good golf, you can find yourself making a name for yourself. And that's what makes this game so cool and so unique. But Ross, turning it over to you real quick. I know we're still here on Monday, not even just from like a betting perspective, but just some of the names that are really catching your eye right off the jump when we look at the 132 player field. I know, unfortunately, Maverick McNeely is not here. I think after a nice, payday, after a stressful 4 days at Torrey Pines, I understand that decision from Mav. But Ross, who are kind of some of the names that are jumping out to you right off the rip when you look at this field?
So I actually wrote down 10 names because I got
a bunch of them written down, so hit me with them.
I wrote down 10 because I wanted you and Ryan's opinion. But just the ones that jumped off the bat. Do you know, besides Scotty Scheffler over the past 3 weeks, who pretty much has gained the most strokes putting in the field aside from Scotty?
Putting? You're talking about Scotty. You're confusing me now.
The most strokes gained over the past, or the most strokes gained in general over the past.
That's where you confused me. I'm like, putting.
Yeah, no, on tour is actually Kurt Kitayama.
Oh, well, dude, he went on an epic run in the fall. And I believe he finished runner up here a couple of years ago.
So this is someone just where the game is. If you take out the majority of the players that would typically be ahead of him, I think it's a big week for someone like Kurt Kitayama to come get a big win here. You already named off another one, Steven Yeager for sure coming back down here, but I also had someone like Bo Hostler, who just seems to come and go, put those if you put it in perspective, has those hot streaks, shows up for a little bit, then kind of falls off. But the first truly interesting one that hung around quite a bit last year, never actually broke through, but it feels like this would be like one of those weeks to come finally break through and get a big one. How do we feel about Aaron Rye?
This is a good Aaron Rye golf course. And the reason I say that, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Aaron Rye, Ryan, won at the Wyndham Championship, and I believe it was 19 under. I like Aaron Rye on a not true birdie fest where the winning score is going to be like 24, 25, because I don't trust his putter to get to that number. A lot of people confuse the Mexico Open with a birdie fest. This course is long. It's over 7,400 yards. It's a par 71. You got 2 par 5s over 600 yards. It's a lot of long iron play, and Aaron Rye is a really good long iron player. I don't know if I'm going to get to him, but he is someone who, in a lot of the courses I looked at that are similar to this one, he's popped up quite a bit. Aaron Rye is very interesting.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, Aaron's a great story, and anybody that wears 2 gloves is, I mean, and wins PGA Tour events. Tommy
Sicko
2
stuff.
gloves and Aaron Rye.
Looks like a hitman to
Need the
me.
next match.
2 other guys that immediately jumped out to me, Sam Stevens, and a guy that you've tweeted out a lot about, Ryan, is Michael Kim. Both guys have been playing excellent golf throughout the West Coast swing. Both guys, I think, are knocking on the door of their first PGA Tour win. Both are at the top of the odds boards this week, so I'm sure they'll be popular. Think there's a good chance either of them break through this week, Ryan?
Yeah, Michael has that random. Michael was playing poorly and then won at the John Deere a few years ago, but
By like a touchdown.
He's been playing really good as of late, and by far the best, one of the best follows on Twitter. Honestly, I say this all the time. I have no idea why more players, especially in the middle pack of the golf world, don't do exactly what Michael's doing, because, I mean, there's not very often that a guy who is whatever Michael is in the OWGR has 5 sponsors, Dunning being one of them. Shout out Dunning.
Yep.
And it's all because of his social media presence. He's awesome. He's engaging. And again, I say it all the time on Twitter. I'm shocked that more players don't do it. I guess they just don't want to put the time and effort into it. But yeah, Michael's a good dude. Sam is a great dude too. Mini tour legend on the All Pro Tour, and ultimate grinder. This has got to be his like 7th week in a row or something. The guy plays all the time. And so, yeah, wouldn't be surprised outside of both of them being tired. Wouldn't be surprised to see him in contention.
That is a great point you bring up, as they have been playing a lot of golf here as of late. But Michael Kim, you want to know what Michael Kim going on Twitter is and opening up with his thoughts? It's relatable. And people enjoy following Michael Kim because he's relatable and he's willing to be open about his experiences. And just like you said, Ryan, I wish more of those guys, if you're capable of being that type of guy, again, it's not for everyone. And I think that's what, like, the part of Justin Thomas's letter I appreciated a couple of weeks ago. He wasn't asking anyone to not be themselves. It's just, if you are one of these types of people, you got to give us that inside look because it makes the game more relatable. But moving on, Ross, who else are some names that you wanted to bring up on the show here today?
I actually saved this one specifically for Ryan because I want Ryan to talk me out of why Frankie Sappin will not make a run this week.
I cannot talk you out of it, Ross. I will never. It doesn't matter the course. Frankie's going to be the rookie of the year, and he will win this year. So it might as well be Mexico.
You heard it here. I do want to ask you too, real quick, Ryan, at the American Express, the 3rd week of the season, me and Ross were talking about this on our recap show following that event. I don't know if you saw at all, but it was when Blaze Brown made his first start as a pro. And he didn't wind up making, and I get as a 17-year-old, like you want to make him a big storyline, but there's a guy coming on. I know he's not as young or anything like that, but Frankie Sappin has an excellent week. I believe he finished T11, and like you could have made that a cool storyline about a young guy coming from the Corn Ferry Tour, finishing like T11. We saw 0 golf shots of Frankie Sappin at the American Express. I don't, you got any idea why that would happen?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, I just had this conversation on a podcast earlier today. You know, I think the Corn Ferry Tour should do a better job of marketing their players. I think they cover their tour as a golf tour, and they should be telling stories. And then that's why we care about these players going forward. You know, Frankie is outgoing, super smart, really, you know, would be good in front of the camera. And we're all like, oh yeah, who's this guy? You know, the casual golf fan doesn't know who he is. So that's what they do, is like Blades Brown over Frankie. Like, Frankie's a young kid too, has a ton of upside. Like, why are we not covering him? Again, that's nothing against Blades, but
right,
17-year-old is not gonna, you know, the odds of a 17-year-old making a cut or making a run or at this early stage in his career almost 0. So make some investment in guys like Frankie. He's obviously going to play on tour all year. You really need to have some storylines and some people that you want to follow at events like this. This is a perfect reason this week that you follow some other guys, so that on this week you can go like, oh, remember Frankie that we covered here and here and here? Like, he's one of the main guys this week. So it's golf needs to do a better job of marketing their other players.
100%. Who are some of the other guys, though, Ryan, that you're interested in following along with this week? Who are some of those names that maybe not the average golf fan has heard of yet, that you wouldn't be surprised to see pop up there in Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I can take these fields from 2 separate ways. Good for the PGA Tour overall, no, because all the top players skip it. Now, the PGA Tour made their own bed by making the signature events, but for me personally, I love these events.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was looking at the field today, and it's like there's so many storylines. There's no standout people. And, I mean, Hayden Springer Monday qualified, but Hayden finished 4th a couple weeks ago, so he's got as good a chance as any. There's some great stories. Matthew Walker is making his first PGA Tour start, played at New Mexico, and I haven't told the story on Twitter. I'll tell it later, but he didn't even have 6 shirts for the week, and Will Zalatoris' agent ended up getting him some clothes so he could have enough clothes and balls and gloves for the week. So, I mean, just the Monday Q life.
Hell yeah.
This is my kind of tournament. Yeah, I could name off 50 guys, but the fact is, there's the odds are it's going to be a grinder in contention. It'll change his career. So, looking forward to it.
Hayden Springer is definitely a name that's going to find himself on my betting card this week. I think Hayden Springer's got a good chance to take this bad boy down. I wanted to ask you, Ryan, as well, about a guy that I saw actually at the 2023 Shriners Children's Open. And I believe it was his first PGA Tour start, and he finished inside the top 10, now on the PGA Tour from the Corn Ferry. I think he's a Vegas native as well. Isaiah Salinda, a guy who I know absolutely cracks the golf ball. You got any insight on Salinda you can give us on the pod here?
Yeah, I mean, really good. Had some Monday qualifiers. He's a really good dude too. So, yeah, there's so many names in. You can look up and down this entire field, and you know, again, like I didn't even, as I was looking, obviously I know he's in the field, but you know, I didn't even think about Isaiah. So kind of just goes into the fact that there's probably 50 or 60 guys that we could all talk ourselves into being like, oh yeah, he could definitely win.
Literally, yeah, and that's what makes these types of weeks so great. It's not the stereotypical PGA Tour event, but the real golf fans enjoy these types of weeks, and not even from just like a Corn Ferry perspective, but there's also a ton of Europeans who haven't got a ton of opportunity on the PGA Tour so far this year because of the signature events that have gone on. Like, we've had 7 tournaments in the season. 3 of them have already been signature events. You know, a lot of these guys who have come over and got their PGA Tour cards, like a Thriston Lawrence, who we saw on the DP World Tour last year, pop up at the Open Championship. We got Nicholas Norgaard's over here, Thorbjorn Olesen, Matteo Manacero, who I know Ross and I were both on at the Genesis Scottish Open, like 2 of like 4 people in the world who had a bet on Matteo Manacero at 400-1. Like, Ryan Fox is here, even from a DP World Tour perspective side of things. Like, there's so many different and intriguing types of names. So I'm super excited to see the action begin. I have no clue ultimately who's going to wind up on my card. But as Ryan put it, like, I could probably convince myself on 40 of these different guys. Ross, who else have I not brought up that you wanted to make sure to get to on the show today?
So I really had 3 more big ones.
Cool.
First of all, I think just after the performance a couple weeks ago, if you take away the top half of the field, and now him getting another shot, Aldrich being in this one.
He was a name I wrote down too. We absolutely had to talk about him, and he's going to be just uber popular this week because of the driving distance, being in the final grouping at Torrey Pines a few weeks ago. And we've seen some crossover from Torrey Pines and guys doing well on the West Coast swing, like a Jake Knapp last year. I think a lot of people are naturally going to go to Aldrich Potater, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone at his age be able to do what he can, man. I really want to see Aldrich in person at one of these tournaments. It's got to be unlike anything else. Ryan, you've been able to see Aldrich in person? See him
I
with the
actually
golf
played
ball?
with him 2 rounds at the BMW. Shit. I was partners with Brady Thornberry in Braden Thornberry and at the BMW, and we played with Aldrich. It's really impressive to watch up close. His course management, not as impressive to watch, but
that doesn't matter here.
That will come with a seasoned caddy and some time. We've all made a lot of bad course decisions, not at that level, but at 19 or 20 years old. So,
that's great.
Super. I mean, unreal. The guy smashes the ball. When he learns some course management, it's going to be dangerous.
That is hilarious.
My favorite is, Ryan, you set this up perfectly for me for my next one. Is I am very excited for the firecracker this week for us to watch. Does Alejandro Tosti break through and do something this week by hitting that ball a mile down there? And then just along with that temper and everything, I know you probably have some stories just in the past off of him, but I think I'm a Tosti fan this week, especially at his number 2.
I think Tosti's good for the PGA Tour. I think, listen, I've wrote the story. Alejandro's not a big fan of mine, understandably. I wrote a story that, it was very fair. Alejandro and his agent both said so in writing. But I think the PGA Tour needs villains. And,
yes.
You know, it's what they miss a lot of the guys that want to live. And I think it would be really good for the PGA Tour if Alejandro could win any week, because it needs villains. But you need villains to play well, too. Like, he would be even more engaging, would be even more divisive if he's up in the, near the leaderboard all the time. That's why we love to hate Bryson before he left for Live. Patrick Reed, Brooks being grumpy. Like, again, we need villains. A lot of nice guys on the PGA Tour right now.
Too many.
So I think Alejandro's great for the PGA Tour.
I could not agree anymore. And we actually just had a conversation with Tweeth when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago about this very topic. And we were talking about Tom Kim and some of his antics and how he's gone about things. And to me, with Tom Kim, regardless of what side of the coin you're on, it's great because he's making you feel some type of way. And it's like, I've kind of compared it to almost like UFC, whereas like, if the fans don't boo you or don't cheer for you, that's the worst thing possible because it means they don't care. Even if they hate you, that is better than having nothing because that means they know who you are. They know what you're capable of doing. They're aware of your presence. And the PGA Tour, like you said, Ryan, has really missed that presence since all of the old villains basically went to live. All of those guys essentially went over there. And yeah, too many likable guys that are trying to say the right thing. Don't be too afraid to mix it up and talk some gruff every now and then. Even Wyndham Clark on TGL, I give him some credit because he's not afraid to speak his mind, say what he wants. Is it for everybody to like? No, some people hate him, but that's a good thing at the end of the day. The PGA Tour needs more of that. Couldn't agree. But again, for Alejandro Tosti to be a legitimate villain, he can't be missing cuts every single week and we never see him on camera. He's got to have a good high-end finish for the first time since I think it was the Houston Open, where he was right there with Steven Yeager and Scotty Scheffler, a very wide open golf course. So I do think Mexico makes some sense for Alejandro Tosti. Did you have one more name that you wanted to bring up, Ross? I didn't want to cut you off there, but Tosti is such a great topic of conversation.
Yeah, no, I figured just the way he mashes that ball, I think this, especially the course management doesn't really matter here. Just hit it a mile down there. If you hit it farther than everyone else, you're going to shoot lower. That's it. And then the last one that just interesting pick that I've just been seeing his name come up a lot and people really buying in, thinking that this could be a good setup. Ricky Castillo.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of love for Ricky Castillo. Definitely want to get your thoughts on Ricky, Ryan, as well as Jackson Suber, who popped up on the leaderboard I think it was at the American Express actually as well. I know Jackson's coming off of the Korn Ferry Tour. What do you got on those two guys for us, Ryan? You got any insight on those? We got you on mute, Ryan. I apologize. Oh boy, we lost Ryan. I'm gonna have to send him an email real quick, so hopefully we can get him on there. But
he's back.
He's back. Okay, we got you in here, Ryan. You can hear us?
Am I back?
You're back.
Yep.
We got it all good.
All right. Jackson is Jackson's had a good year, good solid start. Kind of turned his season around last year on the Korn Ferry Tour after Monday qualifying for the U.S. Open. Had missed like 5 cuts in a row leading up to that. Came back from the U.S. Open to the Korn Ferry Tour, lit it up, and so it's kind of not slowed down. I had a great college career, so kind of, again, how many good players there are in the world. We are sitting here talking like, who's Jackson Suber? Like, Jackson was really, really, really good in college at a major university. So it's although it might be a surprise to some casual fans, it's not terrible. It's not a terrible surprise to see Jackson playing well. So yeah. And Ricky, again, went to Florida, a really good dude and really good player. So it's my argument that we should keep 30 Korn Ferry cards, is all we do is talk about all Americans from major universities.
Yeah, right. Last guy I wanted to bring up, a young stud as well, Jose Luis Ballester Barrio, who I know has accomplished some pretty incredible feats at a young age. Ross, are you familiar with Jose Luis Ballester Barrio? I know he was in the field for the Mexico Open a couple of weeks ago. His parents were Olympians. I believe he was the youngest player to ever win the Spanish Amateur, I believe it was. Ryan, are you 100% up on Jose Luis Ballester Barrio?
I know him, but I'm not sure if he won. I'm not sure if he won the Spanish.
Well, regardless, he is definitely a name that I wanted to bring up because I know he's a high-level talent, and I saw an article written about him when he was in the Waste Management Phoenix Open a couple of weeks ago. So definitely wanted to bring him up just in the slew of young talents that are going to be in this field for the Mexico Open this week at Vedanta Vallarta. Last thing before we let you out of here, Ryan, definitely wanted to have you talk more about the Drive for the Future Classic at Old Barnwell in Aiken, South Carolina that you're putting together. I know Ross is going to try to make it out there for that. For my audience, our audience, I guess I should say, please talk a little bit more about that so we can get it out as much as possible for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, Drive for the Future is my foundation, our foundation that helps high school golf teams in need. So a lot of inner city or rural schools, we give them equipment. Callaway, Dunning clothes. SkyTrack gives us, each school a simulator. We've given over $500,000 in equipment to schools and individual kids in need. So it's the most rewarding thing and the coolest thing that I've been able to do my account. And May 19th at Old Barnwell, number 51 in the country. So an amazing spot that I can't believe we got on. It's going to be our first event. The sign up will be out next week. It's going to be very cool. We get the course the entire day. We're going to have a clinic in the morning. Going to play 18 holes, then play their kids course. It's going to be really great. Super, super excited. Old Barnwell is an amazing place. I was lucky enough to play there last year. It's pretty awesome.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Ryan, for taking the time to join us on the show once again. Thank you to everyone out there who tuned in to this episode of Golf on Tap. A quick reminder to go and follow Golf on Tap, subscribe to Golf on Tap on YouTube, follow Golf on Tap for free wherever you may be listening to your podcast. That way you can catch all of the latest episodes, even if you're not able to tune in live, and check out ontapsportsnet.com for all the latest golf news and updates. We also got tons of Chicago sports stuff there. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs. We got beer reviews, movie reviews, tons of cool and fun stuff over at ontapsportsnet.com. Ross, feels good to come on the show following a Ludvig Aberg victory together, shedding that Marchese curse. I believe I'll be having a final bet show come out on Wednesday with Joey Ricotta. So everyone, keep your eyes peeled for that. Again, a reminder, go and check out mondayq.com if you haven't done so already for the awesome stories that come out from Ryan. Follow him on X at A Case of the Golf 1. Until next time, everyone, crack 'em, lock 'em, and have a great rest.